Hey everyone! Today I wanted to talk a bit about environmental toxins. More specifically, I wanted to talk about heavy metals. As a certified holistic health coach, I talk a lot about all the things you'd expect: nutrition, sleep, exercise, sunlight, and different lifestyle factors, your work-life balance, things like that. But the one thing I mentioned that people are always surprised about are environmental toxins. What's your environment like? What's the water like that you're drinking, the air you're breathing? Do you live close to a highway? Do you live close to the airport? Do you have lots of trees and grass, farmland? Those questions are really important when we're trying to take into account all the factors that present the total picture of your health, especially when we're talking about people that have autoimmune diseases and autoimmune issues. It's important to take those things into account. So I bring this up now because we're going into that spring-summer season when everybody's outside, people are spraying herbicides and fungicides, you're planting things. This is why I thought this was the perfect time to bring it up. So I specifically wanted to talk about heavy metals because I wanted to talk a bit about glyphosate and Roundup. I've had a few clients talking to me about this recently because they've seen headlines or read articles over the past couple months. So Roundup, the residential grade Roundup I'm talking about now, was formulated in the past. The main ingredient was glyphosate, a chemical agent called glyphosate. Glyphosate was problematic for a lot of reasons. One, it's a really effective chelator. So what's a chelator? So chelation is when you introduce a molecule that's easily able to attach to other heavy metals. So it's almost like a magnet. So it, for whatever reason, and there's a lot of science behind it, which I won't get into. But the layperson's way of explaining it is, it's like a giant magnet and it likes to attach to other heavy metal molecules. It's specifically with glyphosate, in the case of glyphosate, it's such a good chelator that it likes attaching to things like aluminum, lead, cadmium, fluoride, things like that we're introduced to on a daily basis in our environments. And this causes such a problem because it's almost like a tipping point. So this is why I say, when one of my clients asked me, yeah, but everybody that used glyphosate or Roundup didn't wind up with cancer. This is because you reach a tipping point. And it's almost like if you've ever seen the movie Batman, from the first Batman back in the day when Jack Nicholson was the Joker and he put chemicals in all the health and beauty products. So if you just used baby powder and lipstick, you were fine. But if you combined that with deodorant and hairspray, then there was a chemical reaction and it did permanent disfiguring damage to the person. It's kind of like that in real life. So this is like art imitating life. In our bodies, we reach a tipping point. So okay, you have some fluoride in your system because it's in a lot of water supplies. Okay, you have some aluminum. Okay, you have some cadmium. You have some old fillings. But then you introduce glyphosate to it, and glyphosate's able to easily attach to all these heavy metals, and it actually increases the mobility. So it's able to help those heavy metals move better through your system, and it actually absorbs in through your intestinal tract lining, and it caused such stress to the body, so to your liver, which is trying to detox everything, to your kidneys, which is trying to detox your lymph, that it could create these really harmful conditions in your body, and your body's not able to work optimally. And we know what happens when your body reaches that tipping point with the inflammation, with things shutting down. So why this is also a problem is because not only does it transfer these heavy metals through your GI lining and everything, and so you're thinking, okay, this is just what I'm spraying. If I don't spray it, then I'll be fine, right? Well, there are trace amounts of it that are still today in our food products. So it's found in conventionally grown oats, soy, canola, wheat, corn. Unless it's organically grown, there's a good likelihood there's a trace amount. Of course, the EPA says this is well below the acceptable rate of safety, so we're all okay. But I still am going to put out here, Okay, but we're still going to reach a tipping point. You're eating all of that. Maybe you're breathing this in. Then you had that onto it. Your body can't detox it well. So still something to keep in mind. Now, today, they no longer make Roundup that has glyphosate. In 2018, fun fact, Monsanto, who manufactured Roundup and a slew of its competitors, was bought out by none other than Bayer Pharmaceuticals. Yes, that very same worldwide pharmaceutical company, the same company that manufactures Claritin and Aleve and cancer products. And yes, that same Bayer bought out Monsanto because Monsanto had the market cornered on GMO seeds, which our farmers used heavily, and also herbicides. So it was a crazy $63 billion, I think they paid for it, but they bought out Monsanto. Unfortunately, there was a lot of litigation around similar timing because there were all these allegations of cancer and autoimmune issues, liver issues, kidney issues from people that used glyphosate products, namely Roundup. So they wound up changing what exactly goes into Roundup, residentially speaking. They also no longer go by the name Monsanto. That name is done. Now, if you look at a bottle of Roundup, it says Bayer on the back. It'll say Bayer AG, I believe, on the back of a bottle of Roundup. So they replaced the glyphosate, which I'll get more into why glyphosate's a problem as I go on. But they replaced it with something called fluazepop p-butyl. And they say there's very little harm in this product, that it's an eye irritant, as most products are, but it's really pretty safe and effective. I will put out to you though, if you start researching and look into it, this fluazepop, I'll just call it fluazepop, if you look over in Europe, Australia, places like that have much more stringent policy than we have here. We allow a lot of things to go into our products chemically that is not allowed in those places. So if you look at Australia, for example, and you look at the safety sheet on fluazepop p-butyl, just so you know, it is a hazard. They're saying it's a hazard because it's an endocrine disruptor. So it does do damage to hormones, especially in women. There's hazards to fetuses. So if you're a pregnant woman, should not be handling it, obviously. They also say it's toxic in aquatic environments. So if it gets into a water supply of any type, they're saying it's toxic to any animals that are in that water supply. So just something for you to keep in mind. Now, when they took it over, Bayer took it over, and there was all this litigation and they had to change the formulation, they didn't say, oh, we'll just take all of the glyphosate Roundup off the shelves. No. So they said, we'll sell it all out, and then once it's sold out and there's no more on the shelves, then we'll come in and we'll put the new formulation on the shelves. So once it's sold out, I think it was by the end of about 2024, I think, they said that they were now just solely selling the fluazepop p-butyl ones. I don't know, if you're in certain areas, you might be able to find a glyphosate one. I don't know, honestly, but according to their website, which you can look for yourselves on the Bayer website, they're saying that it's no longer being sold. Why you're still hearing about glyphosate is because it is still in our commercial herbicide products. So unfortunately, our farmers are so used to, and this is really through no fault of their own, because there are a lot of other things that go into this when you're talking about politics and money and all this other stuff. But a lot of farmers, unfortunately, had to begin to rely on GMO seeds and rely on things like the herbicide that was glyphosate. They had to, because conditions were really poor. They needed more crops. They needed more sturdy crops that were going to be okay, and drought resistant and pesticide and all this stuff. So unfortunately, our farmers are still using a commercial grade version of the glyphosate. So residential no longer has it, commercial does. Why I say you should care about this is because you do have to think that it's still used commercially. So even if you're not using it, you have to think, if you're going to a park or if you're going, to a field, or if you're, in any sort of like public area, you have to think they probably are using a product, a commercial grade product that may have glyphosate in it. Now, how I talked about it kind of combining with other things in your body, this is why I say you have to be concerned, because you may not be using it, but you're bringing it home on your shoes. It's getting on your clothing. Maybe you're not using a product that's toxic, but a neighbor of yours is. You don't know what your neighbors are using or what your lawn people are using and spraying. And now it's spraying and it's going aerosol and it's on the trees, and you're brushing up against that and bringing it in on your clothing, or your pets are out there bringing it in, or it's attaching to the side of your house because the wind is blowing it, or the wind is blowing it right into your HVAC unit, which in turn is bringing it into your vents and into the air that you're breathing inside your home. So I mention all of this not to panic you guys, but to make you aware and to make you think. And this is why when I talk to clients, when I'm talking about what is your home like, what's like the air you're breathing like, this is why I say it's so important to think about, if you do have an HVAC unit, you do need to clean it out. You do need to wash it. You can rinse it off. I rinse ours off a couple times a year. You also have to think about vent cleaning. Done right, vent cleaning is important. I know a lot of people say vent cleaning is a waste of money, but no, it's not. There are all sorts of things blowing into your home. Yes, there's pollen and dander and things like that from animals, but there's also chemical agents. So maybe not necessarily glyphosate, but there are other things being sprayed outside that you don't want in your home. So why it's also important to have air purifiers throughout your home, a good air purifier with a really good HEPA filter or charcoal filter that's going to filter out a lot. So this is why all of these things compound, and you're now not just worrying about, okay, I'm not spraying it on my lawn, but it's coming at you from so many other ways, these heavy metals. So what can you do to mitigate the damages of this? There are a few things. I have heard people say about using apple cider vinegar. I'm not sold on that. I haven't done a whole lot of research on it, honestly, but from what I know about apple cider vinegar, it's good for being a chelator for your hair. So if you have a buildup of minerals or anything on your hair, you can use apple cider vinegar, and yes, it will get rid of that. But internally, I don't think it works quite the same way. The best chelator that I know of naturally is chlorophyll. So chlorophyll is an awesome chelator for two different reasons. One, it does like to attach to all of the heavy metal molecules. So the same as the glyphosate's doing, it's doing. It's going to attach to all the heavy metals in your body. But the really nice thing about the chlorophyll is that it also has a very fibrous membrane around it. So as you're drinking it and it goes through your intestinal system, it's attaching to the heavy metals, but the fiber is brushing the sides of everything, pulling it through, and it ensures that you're going to eliminate it. So that fiber is what ensures you're going to eliminate it and get rid of it. So really good for that. The other thing that I have heard about is charcoal. People talking about activated charcoal. Now, activated charcoal I have in my house as a staple. I love it for a lot of things. Don't love it as that. Yes, it's a binder, but you have to remember charcoal is an adsorbent. So what an adsorbent is it's not a chemical chelator like chlorophyll is. So it'll trap all the toxins on the surface of it. So this is more for like poison. If you eat bad food or something like that, it'll come through your digestive tract and all of it will be attached to the porous outline of the molecule of charcoal, and then you'll pass it through, but it does not detox your blood. It does not detox your tissues. This is strictly, when you're talking about charcoal, we're talking strictly digestive tract. When you're talking about chlorophyll, or cilantro, garlic, certain types of algae that are very high with chlorophyll. You're talking about something different because they are true chelators and they'll bring it through. The nice thing about something like curcumin, so curcumin's a very good chelator, but curcumin's also really good as a bunch of other things. It's a good anti-inflammatory. It also crosses the blood-brain barrier. Now, to make that more effective, you'll see different combinations with the curcumin to help it cross better, but it's really good for people that have heavy metals in the brain. And there are, I know, formulations, even medically speaking, we're talking about prescriptions that have, realized this and optimized curcumin with other things that can cross that blood-brain barrier to get heavy metals out, and you can detox it out that way. So something to keep in mind. The only other thing I mention to people when I'm talking about heavy metals and heavy metal detoxing, obviously you want to be under care of either a physician before you're taking anything, or some sort of medical professional that you've spoken about all of your health issues with, because curcumin is a blood thinner. Because it binds so much to heavy metals, it also binds to the iron in your blood. And so this is why I always tell people that are on blood thinners, no to curcumin, turmeric, quercetin, anything like that. They are natural blood thinners. So before you're taking anything like that, you really need to speak to your doctor or medical professional, because it's really good at its job. So I have heard a story of somebody who was taking very high amounts of curcumin on her own because she was trying to do a heavy metal detox. And she decided to do this and wound up anemic, and nobody could figure out why she was anemic until she finally said to her professional that she was taking high dosages of curcumin, and that's what happened. So I will say just something to keep in mind. But if you don't have any sort of issues, chlorophyll, if you're eating arugula, spinach, those types of things, they are natural chelators, and they do help to kind of keep the balance in your body. So I know I've hit you guys with a lot of information, but I hope you guys find this as interesting as I do. I'm such a science geek and I like understanding how things work in the body. So feel free to drop questions down below if you have questions about anything I've said, or if you know of natural things to do to chelate or to help with heavy metal detox, please drop it below. I did have somebody ask me recently what I do for my lawn care, because I say I don't use any chemicals on the backyard because Mr. Bear, my dog, and I are always back there. So I do have a homemade weed killer that I use in the backyard. That's a combination of water, sea salt, and vinegar, and that's my go-to spray. I only use it on the outskirts of the yard because it is so potent and it will dry anything out. So it'll dry out a weed, but it'll also kill the grass and dry out the grass. So I only use it on the outskirts. As for the weeds, I really don't care about weeds in the yard. I have the yard cut really low, and we're just fine with it. And the bees like it, the birds like it, the squirrels like it, and it makes the grass very cushy for us. So that's kind of how I operate. But if you're looking for natural weed killers, I know there are a lot of ones out there. I know there are a lot of natural do-it-yourself brands now that supposedly don't have the same chemicals. You'd have to do your research though. And I always tell you guys, go down the rabbit hole. Like, start doing your research and go down the rabbit hole. I don't trust what people tell me when they tell me that what they're using on my lawn or what they're giving me to take internally is safe. I'd like to do my own research. So if you guys have questions or comments, please put it down below. I love hearing from you. Like and save this video, or subscribe if you'd like more videos like this, or if there's a specific topic you want me to talk about. If I can answer questions and help, I'm always happy to. Until next time, guys, have a blessed day.